Hello my friends, welcome to another video. So carrying on in the recipe series, today we are going to talk about Floetrol. But before I do that and forget, I want to thank everybody that joined me the other night for my live. It was such a great time. I want to thank you for the donations that were sent in that night. I am truly grateful. I will be using those on my art retreat adventure that I'm going on. And if you were not there, let me just say, I have been invited on an art retreat July 10th through the 17th that I am going to go on. I am going to be spending some time with some great artists. We're going to be hopefully broadcasting live from Belize, of all places, believe it or not. I know that's corny. But yeah, I'm so grateful to be invited on this trip. It's going to be all about learning and having fun, and I'm hoping to share all of that with you, okay? So I want to thank everybody that participated the other night, and to let those that didn't know, July 2nd, for my birthday, I'm going to be going live. I'm going to be holding an auction to auction off some paintings to be able to have some fun on my trip. So, yeah. So, July 2nd, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on my channel. I will have about 20 paintings. They are gorgeous paintings, so I hope that you could join me. Mark your calendars. Also, this Sunday, starting at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Kanella Ciraco Art, The Great Switcheroo Goes Bollywood. It's a collaboration with myself, Kanella Ciraco Art, Erica Hughes Art, and AB Creative. We're doing fluid art in a whole new way, so I hope that you guys join us. Again, that starts 3 p.m. on Kanella's channel, followed by myself at 3:15, AB Creative at 3:30, and Erica Hughes Art at 3:45. So please join us. They are always a great success and a lot of fun. So before I start this recipe here, I want to address something because I got a comment and I just want to explain my thought process for this series. One of my lovely viewers said, you know, watching a recipe video without an actual written out recipe is counterintuitive. So let me explain my thought process on this whole series. I have a ton of videos. Some are under the Back to Basic beginner videos where I do specific techniques and I do the measurements for each technique. This series, what I wanted to do with this series was I wanted to explain what recipes were and what techniques that they could be used for, show you the ingredients for those recipes, and talk about, you know, the effects you can get or when you should use it, when you shouldn't. The series wasn't really based on mixing up an actual recipe and showing you the ingredients or the measurements, and here is why. I have found that, and this, I don't care what anybody says, I'm going to tell you like it is from a YouTube artist perspective. I can show you exact measurements for each of these paints. If you don't use these exact brands and colors, the measurements are not going to be the same for you. They may be close, but if you're looking for a guaranteed exact measurement from any artist on YouTube, you're not going to get it. A lot of people will say, my paints are mixed with 2 parts paint, 1 part Floetrol. Okay, well, how much paint did they make? If I tell you this is mixed with 2 parts paint, 1 part Floetrol, okay, how much did I use? What's 2 parts? I could be making a small cup of this. I could be making a huge cup of it. So that doesn't really help you, right? I can tell you I'm going to use a teaspoon of this, 3 teaspoons of Floetrol, and 2 teaspoons of water. That's great. That's great for this brand right here, which, by the way, is a metallic. So that's going to be a different ratio if you use it with this here. And I'm giving you a measurement for a Dutch pour. What if you want to do it for a ring pour or a swipe? It's going to be different. So I want you to kind of get this measurement thing out of your head and think about it this way. As long as you have some paint, some Floetrol in the cup, those 2 measurements don't matter. If I mix this paint or any of these paints with a teaspoon of paint, a teaspoon of Floetrol, and then water to thin it down, it will behave the same as if I mixed it with a teaspoon of paint, 5 teaspoons of Floetrol, and water to thin it down. The most important part is the water. It always has been the water, because the most important part of all of this is the right consistency. So I can give you generally what I'm going to use here today. Okay, I'm going to tell you exactly the amounts that I used. But again, remember, if you're using different brands, it's going to be different. And you're just going to have to experiment and fail before you succeed. We all fail. I still fail. We all fail until many a times before we actually say, or before we actually get the right consistency. I have shown my failures on this channel. You have all seen them. There's been paintings I've done that I thought were horrible and that people loved. It's all about experimenting, and the way that you know that you're finally on the right path is from your outcome. So I'm going to go over the recipe with you that I'm using for today, but remember, the series is more about teaching you what these recipes can be used for and how to use them and things that you can add into them to achieve some cool results. It's not necessarily about exact measurements. You know, today I'm using level 1 Artist Loft paint, but what if you don't have this and you have the Flow White acrylic? Measurements are going to be different. So what I tell you for this really doesn't matter now, does it? So that's just my whole point with the exact measurements. But I'm trying to teach that let's not be worried about how much Floetrol and how much paint that we really use. Let's worry about that water. Now, obviously, you need to add enough white into the Floetrol so that you see the white. You can't put a little dollop of white and then fill the cup up with Floetrol, because then your painting will dry pretty much just milky clear. So you know, I need to make a big cup of white. So in general, I would use, this is a 10 by 20 canvas. I would use one of these, I believe it is a 16-ounce cup, and I would put into that cup a cup of paint. Actually, a cup for this size would be too much. So 3/4 of a cup. Here is a measuring cup with 3/4 filled. So 3/4 of a cup of white paint. And I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. We need to go back and explain what I'm going to do today. But I just wanted to show you that first, and I'll come back to this. So today I want to talk about the Floetrol Paint and Water Recipe. That is the most popular recipe out there. It can be used for all techniques except for the pearl cell technique, the cloud pour pearl cell technique there. And it cannot be used for the bloom technique. I'm going to add a caveat to that. You may be able to use it for the bloom technique, but I have not tested it yet. I am going to test it. But let's just leave that out for now. So this recipe I'm going to work on today is going to be able to be used for all of your techniques. The consistency of this recipe, though, would need to be different for if you were doing a Dutch pour. So today I'm going to do a Dutch pour for you with the exact measurements, all that. But besides the Dutch pour, if you were going to do any of the other pours, I'm going to give you the measurement for those first so that you can write that down. So it's pretty straightforward. Floetrol and the paint recipe is just that. Floetrol paint and a little bit of water. There's nothing else to it. That's why a lot of people love to use it. So the general rule, not rule, but the general guideline I usually follow for this recipe would be 1 part paint to 2 parts Floetrol and then water. So because I put a 3/4 of a cup of paint into my cup, I need now to use double that amount of Floetrol. If it had been only a tablespoon of paint, I would add in 2 tablespoons of Floetrol. So 1 part paint to 2 parts Floetrol. Let's see what that looks like when we mix it into our white as far as consistency goes. If you want to even stretch it further, you can do 3 parts Floetrol to 1 part paint. It all depends on are you using better quality paints that are more pigmented and you'll be able to see them. When it comes to white, I find a lot of times a lot of the whites have a lot of titanium in them, so you're going to see the white no matter if you use 2 parts or 3 parts. But I like to stick to the 2 parts. And then I'll just use water for the rest of my thinning. And that's essentially what you're using this for. You're using this to thin out your paints to make more of them. And it offers a little bit of cells and lacing here and there, okay? Depending on the technique you're doing, you'll get more cells in a swipe than you will in a ring pour. You'll get more cells in a Dutch pour than you would in a string pull. It depends on how you're moving the paints. When you move them more violently, like in a Dutch pour where you're blowing them, or a swipe where you're pulling them across other colors, you tend to get more reaction than if you just poured puddles on a canvas and pulled a chain through it. Now this is American Floetrol, okay, not Australian. Can you use Australian in a Dutch pour? Of course you can. Do you want to? No, it's way too expensive, and you should probably reserve that for special occasion. But if money is not an object to you, go right ahead. Sure, it's thinner than the American, so you're going to have to adjust your measurements, but you could definitely use it. So there's my first part, okay, 3/4 of a cup. I'm going to add that in and I'm going to mix it up. Okay, just like that. And then I'm going to add in my second part, which I hope is going to fit in here. Yep, we got it. So mix it up really good. So now I could tell you that this right here does not need water if you're going to use it for any other technique except the Dutch pour. So if you're doing a ring pour, straight pour, dirty pour, flip cup, you name it, this recipe can be used for it. You do not need to add any water to that. Okay, that's a good consistency. You want it to leave some trace on the surface and slowly disappear. Okay, nice and creamy looking. That is a perfect consistency. So if you want to know what the perfect consistency is for all techniques except the Dutch pour, go out and get yourself a #1 Artist Loft paint. This one right here. And mix 3/4 of a cup of paint with 3/4 of a cup of Floetrol 2 times. What is that? 1 1/4 cups? I'm not good with math, but anyway. Then you'll know what the perfect consistency is for all of the techniques of acrylic pouring. This body, I will say, is very similar to Pebeo, to a Liquitex brand paint. If you're using the little bottles of like Deco Art, Craftsmart, Apple Barrel, it'll be way too thin. So for those, you would want to back off on the Floetrol a little bit. Maybe just do 1 part. But again, you're trying to find this consistency. That is what it looks like for all acrylic pouring except for the Dutch pour. And like I said, you can't use this for the bloom. I got a clump of something in there. Can't use it for the bloom or the pearl cell technique. Now, is this recipe here, are these ingredients part of the pearl cell recipe? Yes, but it's not exact. So there's more ingredients that need to be added, and we will be doing that one. And as I mentioned a little bit down the road, I'm going to show you how to use your primary elements with these recipes. I already have a video on that. If you're interested in it, I will link it below. In that video, I did a Dutch pour with primary elements, but that recipe in that video can be used for all types of techniques. Okay? So there's our white. All done. Easy peasy. What about these other colors here, though? They're all considered medium-bodied paints. All right? I want to make a bottle full of paint. These are a 4 ounce. I get them on Amazon or Loli Veffy. Loli Veffy I have a discount for. Amazon I do not. But there's a multi-pack on Amazon. Just check the pricing. And as I said, they're in my Amazon link. But this little cup, it won't fill the bottle, but you don't use much for Dutch pour anyway, and that's what I'm doing. So let me make a color. So now here I have my blue, black, indigo, one of my favorite colors. I'm going to use a tablespoon of paint in this cup. Actually, I lied because I might make a little bit more than I usually do, so let's just measure it. I'm pulling out an actual tablespoon that everybody has, and I'm going to put the paint on it, and I'm going to level it out so that we know it's exactly a tablespoon. We want a level tablespoon for learning purposes, okay? So that's that. That's 1. Now these paints by Atelier are much more pigmented than a craft paint. So could I get away with just using this much? Probably, but because I need to make a cup full and I want there to be a little bit of body to the color, I'm going to add in 2 level tablespoons. So I decided to transfer it into a bigger cup because I knew there wasn't going to be enough room in that little cup. For some reason, this paint, when I use it and add anything to it, it fluffs up a lot. So I just transferred it into a bigger cup, and I ended up adding 4 tablespoons of Floetrol. So you have 2 tablespoons of paint, 4 tablespoons of Floetrol. I just decided to cut out some of the mixing because this video would have been extra long. Okay, so again, 2 tablespoons of paint, 4 tablespoons of Floetrol, and for water, start off with a teaspoon of water, like so. Give it a mix. It's going to be way too thick still for what we need. Add in another teaspoon. So we're up to a tablespoon, right? 2 teaspoons. And I will show you this consistency on a piece of paper. Okay. Too much still. Okay, so it took 4 teaspoons of water. So 2 tablespoons of paint, 4 tablespoons of Floetrol, and 4 teaspoons of water to get the right consistency for the Dutch pour with a medium body type paint. Okay, there you have it. But now let me show you something else. Told you it's a really good pigmented paint, right? Hate to waste it. So again, getting the maximum amount out of my paint. It's still going to work because, again, measurements don't matter. This matters right here. This is what matters. Okay? Now, adding that Floetrol didn't do a dang thing to it. Still a great consistency for a Dutch pour. So try not to concentrate on those measurements. Just add in the ingredients. Remember, using something like water, if you use too much of it, can break down your paints. So try to use less of that and more of your pouring mediums that you're using, whether it be this or pouring medium. Somebody asked me to do a Dutch pour using glue and water. You can do a Dutch pour using glue and water, but I don't think it's going to be the best looking. You're not going to get any cells, maybe 1 or 2. If you want to do a really pretty Dutch pour, you should use something like Floetrol, Floetrol and pouring medium, or just Floetrol or just pouring medium. Glue and water, I don't know. I've done one before and it just was not anything to knock my socks off. So now we're on to the big cup of white paint for the Dutch pour. This will be the last one I mix with you on screen. All right, so in here we had 3/4 of a cup of white paint. We had 2 3/4 cups of the Floetrol, which I believe is 1 1/4. Again, I'm bad with fractions, so 3/4 of a cup twice on the Floetrol. Okay, now we need to add some water to that. So I'm going to start off with a tablespoon on that one. I'm a little off camera here, I know. Start off with 1 tablespoon. I'm going to mix it in. It's not going to be enough. So what I'm going to do is pause you and I will let you know how much I ended up adding in here, because this is just boring watching me do this. Okay, so it took 4 tablespoons of water. So 3/4 of a cup of paint, 3/4 of a cup of Floetrol 2 times, and 4 tablespoons of water. That is my consistency. Hold the stick up. It leaves a little mound on the surface and then disappears. Okay? So that's what I'm going to be using for my Dutch pour today. And I'm going to mix up the rest of the paints, and then we're going to jump into that. Now, for blowing purposes and all that, when you blow your colors, you don't want to aim down into the colors. You want to aim the compressor of your blow dryer. I'm using Marilyn Monblow today. I still have to put her tag on. So, yes, I have another one identical called Flo. This is a second one, Marilyn Monblow. So, when you blow, hold your blow dryer upside down. Blow at the surface. Blow the colors over the surface. Don't go like this and try blowing them out, because what it does is it rotates your colors and makes them muddy. So hold it upside down and glance them over the surface, okay? Okay, so I have all of my paints mixed up. I'm going to pour them in my little bottles here. Let me show you the consistency of them. Just put a little dollop here on the paper. Nice and creamy. So that is the consistency you want to look for with a Dutch pour. And speaking of Dutch pours, because I am doing one, let me give a shout out to Kanella Ciraco Art. I'm going to try one of her designs today. If you've never heard of her, which I imagine you have, go check her out. I'll put her channel in the description below. She does the most beautiful Dutch pours. So the colors I'm using today are Ultramarine Blue, Artist Loft Professional Heavy Body. I have here Pebeo, Iridescent Green Blue, Tillier Blue Black Indigo. I have 24 Karat Gold by Deco Art, and I have Turquoise Artist Loft. All right, my white, I showed you the one that I'm using, and we're going to start by putting the base coat down. Now, when it comes to the base coat, I pour on and tilt off. Once the canvas is covered, I stop tilting. I know that can be a little bit confusing. There really is no depth to the paint on the surface. I mean, it's just covered. It's going over the sides nicely. When I'm done tilting, if I went to tilt it again like this and it starts pouring off, there's too much on there. So I tilt until it's dripping off the edges, if that helps. I think, you know, for beginners that are trying to do this technique, putting some paint on and using a spatula to spread it out may make it more difficult. You may be leaving or adding too much paint on. So let's just do this. Let's just dump some paint on. Let's tilt it around. Sorry about that. Let's tilt it around, and then I'll take the pointy end of this dotting tool and I'll stick it right on the surface and show you just how deep that paint is. It's not really deep at all. It's just the canvas is coated. Okay, so for me, this is the easiest way. After I get done tilting this around, I'm going to take that needle and stick it right in the center of the painting to show you how deep the surface paint is. I mean, you can see it's just the tip of that needle. So there really is no depth to that surface. So now I'll just add a little bit here to this one corner. And then make sure that my sides are coated. Now comes the fun part. So torch your surface, add your colors, whatever pattern you want to do, and then blow them out. Again, be sure to aim the dryer at the colors, not down into them. So aim that air right at the color so that it blows over the white area. I'm going to give your ears a rest for now, and just know that while you're watching this, I am designing this painting for a portrait view. You're looking at it landscape. I'm designing it in a different way. Okay, so there you have it. Now it may be odd to you the way that I was blowing this out, the composition, but I was going for this is a 10 by 20, so I want it to, well, I mean, you could portray it this way, it looks beautiful, but I was thinking portrait style. So this is actually the bottom area working up this way. But again, you can portray it whatever way you want. And you can see the colors are nice and vibrant. Got some cells going on there. I'll put the flash on in a minute. I got some depth using that darker blue, black, indigo, which is what I wanted. And it ended up in the right place for once, you know, at the bottom of the petals. So I'm happy, very happy. This will look beautiful with resin. So here is some flash for you. So used to my primary elements and, you know, my eyes being burnt out from all the glitter. Oh, the shimmer, I should say, not glitter. There's no glitter in it, but this is pretty too. I like it. Whoops. Got something in there I gotta get out. It's lighting up like a Christmas tree, my friends. So that is today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please click like. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe and ring that notification bell so you know when the next video comes out. And the links are in the description as always with the coupon codes that I have. I am a Blick affiliate, so all your pouring needs can be satisfied through that one link. They have so many beautiful paints and my favorite blue-black Atelier if it's in stock. They have all these Pebeo paints, all of that. So if you click on that link, it'll take you right to Blick. And to Amazon as well is there. So my friends, that it is it for this recipe video. I hope you understand now my vision for this series. It's not so much as give me a recipe and I can do this. It's more explaining the products and what they can do. And again, Floetrol paint and water, if needed, can be used for all acrylic pouring techniques except for the bloom technique and the pearl/cloud technique. But those videos will be coming up very shortly. If you are not a member of United We Pour Fluid Art Group, that's our Facebook art group, join. We have a great June challenge going on. And you can win a prize. We have almost 18,000 members. So you can make friends with people that love the same thing that you do. Talk, share your art with us. It's a great place to join. And also, I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Pinterest. All those links are in the description. So, with all of that being said, I love you all and happy pouring.